Russia's war on Ukraine has shaken European security, and NATO's eastern flank is especially worried. The Baltic states, fearing Russian aggression, are ramping up defensive positions. Canada plays a key role in those efforts in Latvia, leading the NATO alliance's deterrence deployment in that country.
We're more than doubling our military presence in Latvia to full brigade size, with up to 2,200 persistently deployed troops by 2026. And we are working hard to make sure that those troops have the equipment that they need.
These efforts continue as fear grows among NATO allies and partners about the future of the United States. A $60 billion aid package for Ukraine remains stalled in the U.S. Congress, which President Joe Biden will address this evening in his State of the Union address. And Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner, has routinely called into question his commitment to NATO's collective defense principle. Andris Sprūds is Latvia's Minister of Defense, and he joins me now. Minister, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're now past the 2-year mark of Russia's war on Ukraine. How do you evaluate the threat Moscow poses to Latvia and NATO's eastern flank at this stage of that war?
Well, during Madrid summit, NATO summit in 2022, it was clearly defined that Russia is a threat to NATO, and of course it remains so. And 2 years after a full-fledged or full-scale invasion into Ukraine, of course we see the situation is still quite challenging, that we should strongly, unwaveringly support Ukraine in its fight for its freedom. But as I have been mentioning already previously, it is also about fighting for rules-based order, fighting for the credibility of NATO alliance. And that's why, of course, we should do everything to support Ukraine and be ready to contain Russia in a long-term perspective as well.
Well, to do that, you're working with Lithuania and Estonia to build a Baltic defense line. What does that mean? What does that look like in practice?
Yes, we realize that, of course, we should defend together every inch of NATO territory. Mm-hmm. And since Russia is just in the proximity of NATO territory, so we should do everything what we could do as well to strengthen our deterrence and defense capabilities and strengthening the border together in coordination with our Baltic partners. So certainly this is an important task, what we are now implementing. Just the government confirmed the plan, military counter-mobility plan, which includes different kind of elements of fortifying the border, creating the specific obstacles also for the mobile forces. So basically that, of course, we strengthen the border, but it is a part of wider defense activities. It is a part of wider regional defense activities within NATO planning.
So mobility focus. So is this to make it harder? Should there be an invasion? Should there be a ground invasion that we don't see the big column of troops like we saw outside of Kyiv, this sort of thing? Or are we talking fixed forward troop positions? What would it look like in practice?
We are speaking about different kind of scenarios. And let's be realistic. Of course, now we are basically facing hybrid war with Russia, weaponization of illegal migration, the cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns. So, of course, if you want to have a peace, also prepare for worst case scenarios, prepare also for certain kind of military activities. And this is also the one of the, in a sense, ensuring the ways how we strengthen our defense. But by strengthening our defense, actually it also directly also shows the signals of deterrence. Right. We are ready, we do our homework, we do homework on national level, but of course we strongly cooperate with our partners, and here we highly appreciate also, of course, Canadian contribution to NATO alliance defense activities, and also, of course, to activities of defense matters in Latvia.
Okay, on that, as part of the deterrence, Canada leads a NATO battle group that is in your country. But there's been a lot of conversation about the state of the military readiness in this country, the level of Canadian government spending. This week, my colleague Marie Brewster is reporting that only 58% of the Canadian Armed Forces would be able to respond if called upon in a crisis by NATO allies. And Defense Minister Bill Blair was quoted today as saying the Canadian military is facing a death spiral when it comes to recruitment and retention. How does that affect Canada's role in your country with the NATO brigade? And does it concern you that a NATO ally like Canada is struggling like that in a time like this? Well,
I can first of all look from Latvian perspective, and once more, Latvia highly appreciates Canadian engagement, Canadian presence, and we have agreed with our Canadian colleagues how we move forward with a clear roadmap that we, by 2026, achieve 2,200 Canadian soldiers with persistent presence in Latvia in a battle group, and of course we size it up to the brigade-sized battle group together with our other allied partners. So from this perspective, we highly appreciate and value Canadian presence and leadership, and certainly also there are different venues as well to expand our cooperation, including in the cybersecurity. We just agreed today on Canada joining the Latvian-initiated drone coalition. Of course, also the military expenditure is, in a long-term perspective, is a very important element to make our military, our armed forces, our contribution commitment to alliance resilient and also, of course, sustainable. Latvia certainly contributes more than 2%. Yeah. We are achieving the target of 3% in the coming years. Of course, we also strongly encourage our partners to follow the example as well, and of course to fulfill the commitment of 2% within NATO, which has been exactly sort of commitment made by all allies.
You met with Bill Blair today. I mean, do you have any sense of whether Canada is actually going to lay a credible plan on the table to hit that 2%, get close to that 2%? And if not, given these capacity challenges we're facing, do you think they can meet the obligations they've made to your country?
Well, we have clear roadmap between us, between Canada and Latvia. Obligations on both sides, of course, are taken extremely seriously, and we are fulfilling those obligations. And here I don't see any challenges in this regard. But of course, once more, I can just repeat that, yes, of course, long-term commitment, long-term engagement as well with strong financial backing is important. So political commitment, financial commitment and investment is extremely important to sustain allied efforts, including in Latvia.
Okay, long-term commitment. There's a lot of questions right now about the United States. The State of the Union is going to happen in just a few hours from now, and President Biden is going to speak to a joint session of Congress that is either unable or unwilling to pass this badly needed aid package for Ukraine. You're right there. How worried is your country, is your government about what is happening in the United States with President Zelensky saying they have to ration munitions in the defense of their country from Russia, and they badly need the United States to move ahead? How concerned are you?
Well, NATO has proved its viability. NATO has proved its relevance. Today, Sweden has joined NATO, so it's a 32nd member of NATO alliance. So it shows also, of course, that NATO has an appeal of its strengths and unity. Yes, absolutely, the unity is extremely important. One for all for one. I think it's to benefit and interest of all involved countries and all allied the countries, nations. And of course, also US in this regard is extremely indispensable. It is indispensable for alliance as a whole. Of course, it's also indispensable for the Baltic countries and defense and security of the Baltic countries. So yes, of course, we take seriously some political developments in the United States, but let's also face it, this is a pre-election campaign. Or in each of our countries, we are facing some domestic dynamics, political dynamics. But if you look also in a longer-term perspective, United States has been indispensable for the NATO alliance. But of course, also it has been in many ways together with all allies during all of the presidencies, including also during the previous Trump presidency.
But do you think Ukraine can win if the U.S. doesn't start delivering more aid, and more money, and more military equipment? Because it seems to be this is a critical year, it seems, with the counteroffensive having not gone as far as they had hoped, and with Russia pushing back. I mean, what do you think? Can they hold out?
As Mr. Zelensky has just expressed recently during the Munich Security Conference, that, of course, the Western allies, NATO alliance, the Euro-Atlantic community of like-minded nations, I mean, they've done a lot, but of course, still there are a lot to do. So, of course, the sustained, unwavering support for Ukraine is extremely important. Yes, this is quite a crucial year, but you can say that previous years were crucial and also the coming years are crucial. US have done a lot as well for the support of Ukraine. Yes, of course, at the moment it seems that there is a debate in the Congress. I still strongly believe that the package will be adopted. But yes, of course, we should take into account that sometimes we're a little bit lagging behind in terms of the timeline, that there must be the element of urgency, there must be, of course, scaling up as well and quick deliveries. Yes, of course, sometimes domestic politics, they come and interfere into such support, but at the same time, so far, It has been also done a lot, and I believe that United States, Europe will be able also to provide all necessary supplies needed, and there is a sense of urgency among allies, including United States. And United States has been a leading nation, has been in a leadership position during Ramstein format and other formats as well to support and ensure this support.
Latvia's Minister of Defense, Andris Sprūds, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Nice meeting you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.